Hi, everybody. Welcome back. And I'm so glad to be with you today because we're talking about something that's super important for people with mast cell activation, mold toxicity, these other chronic conditions, and that's water quality. So we always have to consider our overall toxin load in addition to things like mold toxins, and a lot of toxins are now in our water. So we have a special guest with us, Helen Christoni, and I'm so excited that she's joined us. I'm going to tell you a little bit about her in just a second here. But I always want to start our lives by reminding people this is for informational, educational purposes. We're not here to treat, diagnose, cure, or prevent any illness. So do work with your healthcare provider. And I always like to be fully transparent that if you see any links that are affiliate links, it means that Mast Cell 360 may make a very small commission. Doesn't cost you anymore to help support all of our research that we do to try these things out for you and our Facebook Lives and all of our free blog posts and so on. So welcome, Helen. I'm happy to have you here.
Thank you so much. It's really nice to be on today, Beth.
Let me just let everybody know a little bit about you as we're starting and people are joining here. So Helen Christoni is a passionate health and wellness executive with over 20 years of experience with a wide range of businesses in the water purity and purification category. And she really thrives on connecting people with great products through meaningful relationships. So she is the Vice President of Business Development and Partnerships at Ideal Living. And this is the company that makes Aquatru, as well as one of our other favorite products, which is Air Doctor, and another product called AromaTru. And today we're going to be talking about water quality. So I'd actually love to have you come back to talk about air quality at some point.
Oh, of course.
So we're so happy to have you. And as you're jumping on, everybody, if you can let us know that you're here in the chat, it usually takes about 10 minutes or so for everybody to get on. How did you get into being interested in water quality and water purification?
I think, I've always been really kind of attracted to a healthy lifestyle and I've always been really concerned about what I put in my mouth and body and what I feed my family. And I really think the first time that I had my big aha moment is when I looked up my zip code in the EWG database. And for
what that is?
Yeah, so EWG is it's a site where that monitors different water quality and other product quality across the United States. It's the Environmental Working Group. And so it's very easy to go in and just put your zip code in, and you'll get a report of what is in your actual tap water. And when I did mine, and just for information, there's 10 times the allowed amount of arsenic in my water, which can cause cancer. The really big one that really freaks me out is chromium. I have 247 times the chromium in my water, and I have probably 13 contaminants that are super harmful to me, my family, my pets' health, that are way over the allowed limit. And you just normal people just don't think about this. You go to your tap, you fill up your dog's bowl, you cook with it, you make coffee with it, you do all these things with it. And I like to call it like where so many people are out there cooking with toxic soup and they don't even know. And so that was my big aha moment of when I got really passionate about educating about water. And I like to call myself like a water warrior.
I like that, water warrior. And this chromium you're talking about, it's not the same chromium picolinate that we take as a supplement. It's the hexavalent chromium. So it's a synthetic, it's a dangerous chromium. We don't want that in our bodies. I've been using Aquatru actually for a few years. And then one of the reasons I really wanted to have you on is there are so many water filters out there. And one of the things that I learned on this journey is that a lot of the water filter review websites were created by a water company. And then they make it look like it's independent of them, and then they'll write their own reviews. And that's a problem. I don't think that's ethical. And the other reason that this has been really important to me is because in our practice at Mast 360, we run chemical toxin panels on people. And I have so many people that say, oh, I have a really good water filter. I'm like, okay, good. Let's check. And these check for airborne chemicals and they check for waterborne chemicals in people's bodies. And so often when somebody thinks they have a really good water filter, they have all these waterborne chemicals that show up, things like MTBE that can be, that can be in the air pollution or the water pollution, but we'll see things like acrolein, and I'm looking for these patterns of these toxic chemicals, and we work with people who are so sensitive. We even have people who come in who have anaphylaxis from drinking water. And then I got them drinking reverse osmosis water and like, oh my gosh, I can finally drink water again. And it was those chemicals in that water that was triggering them. Can you tell us more about what these kind of issues just in general with tap water? I know if we're drinking tap water, we're all getting birth control pills. We're all getting antidepressants at this point. There's Paxil, measurable levels of Paxil in the water. My dogs get filtered water. They get everything at the same level I get. So if I get filtered water, they get filtered water. Then what else do we find in the water?
And I think there's a lot of bacteria, in our water supplies, and microorganisms, also disease and virus can come through your water supply. And sometimes I think that it's such a carrier, and people just don't realize it. Talking about different types of water purifiers, first and foremost, something is better than nothing, and so I'll say that. But reverse osmosis has always been kind of the gold standard in water purification. And there's 4 steps in reverse osmosis. So your water goes through several different filters, and we really RO systems, whether it's whole house or ours, or they really, really clean the water in a very specific way. And when you compare that to gravity filters, it's just not going through the same process. And then also gravity filters, you have a lot of water sitting, in the bottom and not constantly moving through. So you have a lot of like sitting water, which is always a concern. One thing, like I always get asked about, like, why Aquatru over a gravity type filter like Berkey.
Can you tell people what a gravity filter is? They may not know what that means.
Sure. A gravity filter has a filter that the water just runs through one filter and then it's dispensed out. A reverse osmosis system, most of them plug in, or ours plugs in, and it kind of goes through 4 different filter technologies to get out the other side, but it's constantly flushing. And the gravity filters uses gravity to pull the water through. So the filter mechanism is typically sitting in some sort of water.
So this is like our pitcher type filters, our Berkey type filters, those.
Yeah. And one thing I think that's really important is to have a really great understanding of how your filters are tested. So many companies don't test their filters to the life of the filter. Let's say our filter, for instance, and I could talk about Aquatru. Let's say our filters go to 600 gallons. We remove the same amount of contaminants at gallon number 1 as we do gallon number 600. And so, some filter companies only test to 50 gallons, which isn't a lot of water, and you also don't have like a notifier necessarily to tell you when to change your filter. So it gets a little tricky. And I think it's important to point back to the EWG database here. When you start digging into your water quality, the environmental working group recommends like what type of filter you should use based on the contaminants in your water. And for sure, hands down, reverse osmosis filters take out the most contaminants out of the water.
And we'll find that link and put it in the comments for everybody. So see if I can dig that up, Helen, for people.
Yeah, I'll do it. I can do it for you.
Oh, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah.
So then we know we've got these other chemical toxins as well. And so people can look up water quality through environmental working group. Then I've used a company called Tap Score that we can also put a link in to check, because sometimes I have things that can show up that can be airborne or waterborne, like glyphosate. And I want to know what the source is. So then we'll check the water to see if it's showing up in the water. And a lot of times it does come through in the water, particularly people living around farmlands or near golf courses. I see a lot of trouble with water quality in the people in golf courses. Any other thoughts on how to check water quality for people?
There are some really expensive water tests. I don't think that's necessarily something that you need to do, because there's a lot of public information out there. There are also something that you could buy on, let's say, Amazon, called a TDS meter. It checks the total dissolved solids in your water, and we like to keep total dissolved solids under, let's say, 50. It's impossible to filter everything out of water, but when you check your TDS, and it's a simple test, you stick this TDS in the water and it shows you, and some TDS meters can be like 300, 400 particles in the water. That's definitely a simple way to see that you have something in your water. Also, for people that have well water, that's a really good test to do, because it's pretty straightforward, and it'll show you how what's going on with your well water just at a glance.
And that was one of the factors. There were a number of factors in my own health, and a lot of people on here know my health story, but that I started getting ill as a child, and part of it was mold and tick-borne illnesses. We moved out to the country, but we had a well. We were surrounded by farmland, and they spray those crops so heavily, and then all of that goes into that groundwater, gets into the well water. So if people have well water, it's so important to get that checked as well, and not assume that it's we just don't have crystal clear water anymore. Even they found, unfortunately, microplastics in sourcing that's coming from what used to be pristine streams.
Yeah, so I mean, I think when you have a well water situation, it's very hard for it to test with well water, like across, let's say, the United States of America, because there's so much dependencies on where you're at, where you live by, if there's animals, if there's not, is it desert? But I think that one thing that we like to tell people who use our unit with well water is to make sure you descale the kit frequently. So there's something called, because a lot of well water is really hard. And so whenever you have hard water running through any sort of water purification system, and this is another reason why reverse osmosis is so important, you have to descale it, kind of like a coffee maker. And we have a descaling kit. You just plop in and you run it through a cycle. You flush it out a couple times, and it's literally as easy as plopping in the solution, putting water in the back of the machine, and then you can make sure that you're descaling your water for hard water. And if you do that every few months, you should be really keeping your reverse osmosis system very clean. I know my dad, I have a Aquatru countertop unit in his home, and he lives in one of the most hardest water areas in the US. And so he's having to really descale. So it's very, water is very personal, and we really try to find solutions for everybody.
And so now we had hard water, but we have a water softener. So would we need to descale because we have a water softener?
It just probably not, because you're probably running all the water through your water softener.
Yeah, we are. Yeah.
But for people that don't have that, I think it's important that they descale their unit.
And anybody, if you have questions, put them in the chat. We're going to do our Q&A at the end. And a reminder to just please keep your questions on topic about water purification today. If it's off topic or an in-depth personal health question, we can't do those. And we appreciate your understanding with that. So I know we're going to talk about different what to look for basically in a water filter, and that what I really appreciate about you coming on is that we just want to get people information so they know what options, because people are going to want to shop around, they're going to look for possibilities. I shopped around quite a bit and almost paid $1,600 for a reverse osmosis system, and then found your system. And then I had to, because I always go into everything as a skeptic, and I also want to do really due diligence when we try something out. I try it out for a long time before we talk about it for a community. But then I found your water filter, and it was in the I can't remember exactly what I paid for it, but it was around the $350, $400 range. And I've had the countertop, and now we've gone to the under the sink model. So I've used both models.
Mm-hmm.
But I just want people to have the information about like what they need to be looking for if they're comparing, or if they're looking at their current filter and whether it's filtering enough for them. What should they look for?
I really think it's important that that whatever water filter you're looking at, there's something called NSF standards, right? And bear with me because I'm trying to remember what NSF. I was in EWG mode, so yeah, it's the NSF is a public health and safety organization, and so there are several different, like it's kind of like USDA certified organic, right? So to be certified to NSF standards really, really, really means something. And so not many people are certified to NSF standards, and we are. So that means that we undergo through lots of testing and auditing to make sure that our filters truly filter out contaminants, the 83 that we state on our website, for the lifetime of that filter. And there are a lot of companies out there that aren't certified to NSF standards. And so if you don't see in the filter language on the website that if you don't see the NSF standards like writing anywhere, that's a big red flag, because they're not going through this public health and safety level of testing. And, you don't need to have this testing to be authorized to sell water filtration. And some companies do, and some companies do not. So we pride ourselves in our technology and being, going through our certification process. And so that's number one. Like, and if people have questions about like these testing protocols, I can follow up with some really great information after the fact, because it's pretty complicated.
Well, that's a tough certification that's out there also for supplements, and that's a tough certification to get for supplements. I know about that process.
Yeah.
So I can imagine it's just as tough for the water filtration company.
It really is. And so it's important that, that you're and a lot of, I mean, there's pitcher filters that have been certified, and there's, I don't know if there's other type of like a big gravity filter that's been certified, but we are constantly trying to remove contaminants, constantly retesting. And it's just part of our life cycle at our company that we make sure that we are putting science-backed products out there, that we can truly make claims based on data.
So that's one thing people can look for is NSF. And Kim, feel free to drop your questions in. Sometimes repetition helps everybody. So if you have a question, don't hesitate to put it in, even though you missed part of the beginning. Is Why don't we back up for a second, talk about a little more about the difference between, say, a charcoal filter, a pitcher filter, versus reverse osmosis. There's distillation, these different kinds of methods, and there's some pros and cons. I also looked at a water distiller, but then my one of the places where I just decided to pivot was because I couldn't get all the chemicals out that I wanted to get out. It was very time consuming and it wasted a lot of water. It was just the effort it was going to take was too much work. Plus, I wasn't going to get the water purity I was looking for, but that's an option that's out there for people too.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think one of the big things is filter life. And, pitcher filters typically don't filter for very long. And with Aquatru, you're only having to change your filter. One of the filters you change every 6 months, another one annually, and then another one can go to the outside of, let's say, a year and a half to 2 years, depending on which one. So you have a really long time in between filter changes. So it's like you're not constantly
how much. Like a family of 6 is going to need to change more frequently than we have 2 people and 2 dogs. We don't change quite as often.
It depends. And then, one great thing about our Aquatru countertop unit that's so great is it just lets you know. There's no guessing. And so the water machine lets you know it's time to change your filter. And it doesn't. Like my daughter was actually using a pitcher filter. And I mean, she would just let it go. And she'd be drinking through this pitcher filter for months on end and not changing it. And that's doing the complete opposite of what you're trying to do. So unless you're on like a real repetitive changing it all the time, I think that it's just really difficult and high maintenance.
We don't have the count. We had the countertop. That's how I started. Yeah. Now we have the under the counter, so we don't have the indicator, but we have it on the calendar and we just do it. It comes up on the calendar. It happens that week. I taste it. I know not everybody's as sensitive, but I taste it if it needs to go off. And we had a dog that, long story I won't go into, but she had to take hydrocortisone for a while, which made her much thirstier. So she was drinking almost a gallon of water a day. Yeah. And I would think about it changing the life cycle of our filter, but I tasted it as it changed.
So true. And, taste is really interesting. I'm really glad you brought that up because a lot of people, water is very taste oriented to them, and so taste is a very important factor. And so our system, Aquatru, is a very clean water. So it really takes out, and a lot of people, I'm just going to talk about it because people always ask this question. It does remove a lot of the minerals out of the water. And most people aren't getting a lot of minerals from their drinking water. They're getting them more from food. But there are like beautiful minerals that you can add to your water, which we recommend. So you're really making sure you know what trace minerals you're getting.
Yeah. And I have one we use called Concentrace, and SJ's on with us today and helping. Susan's on vacation, but SJ, could you put the Concentrace link in for people so they can see that to put the minerals back? And if you're super sensitive, just start with about 1 drop in a half gallon and go slowly. You've got to build up slowly on minerals if you're really sensitive.
So I prefer the clean RO water and to get my minerals in other ways. Some people, it's like I said, it's preference. And you just don't, and a lot of these pitcher filters are not necessarily taking contaminants out to that level. And so it's kind of a guess, with a lot of these pitcher filters, actually what they're taking out and what they're not. And with gravity filters. And with RO, you really, really have a very clear understanding of the process that the water is going through to be clean. And I can go into that a little bit. So, so our reverse osmosis consists of 4 different systems. And the first stage is our pre-carbon filters. It's number 1 and 2. And the water passes through a mechanical pre-filter that removes all the large particles in your water, like sediment, rust, things like that. And then the next filter is our RO filter. That filter is an ultra fine, really tiny membrane, and that's taking out all the super dangerous chemicals like lead, chromium 6, arsenic, hard metals, things like that. And then the last stage is our coconut block carbon filter. That filter removes things like rocket fuel, drug residues, PFAS. I'm sorry, I always mess that up. And that's basically the systems it's going through. So every time you pour a glass of water, you know that it has completely gone through 4 stages of purification.
So let's talk about the 2 units. There's the countertop and then there's the under the sink. Can you just share with people how those 2 units work?
Sure. They both use the exact same filters. So I'll start with that. So so the under the sink uses the exact same filters as our countertop unit does. Our classic countertop unit. There's a new little guy that's out, so I don't want to confuse anybody. So our classic countertop unit was actually the first ever countertop reverse osmosis machine. So we're very proud of it. We got the first patents, and it really revolutionized water purification. And so basically with our classic unit, which goes on your counter, you plug it in and you basically pour your tap water into a back reservoir, and then the water comes up and it comes into a drinking section in the front, and then you literally just pour your clean water out.
And that's what I love about it. It's super easy.
Yeah.
It was so nice when we had just moved into our new house and we had so much to do. So trying to get something installed, I just didn't have the bandwidth for that. And you can take that little bucket over to the sink too to fill it.
Yeah, you could just pull it out. We have if it's hard for you to navigate, we do have a little roller that you can put it on that makes it really easy to kind of pull it out and from under your countertops if that's a concern. And yeah, you just take the little reservoir and you take it to your sink, you put it in, and you can I always say you can bottle your own water at home. We're also very concerned about the planet, and it's really important to us that we're reducing plastic waste. As everyone knows, plastics, microplastics, is a huge problem, and so we're very proud of the imprint. So we have our classic countertop unit that's great for people if you're renting, if you're not handy, if you don't think you're going to live in a house for a certain amount of time. Also for I have that unit in my daughter's home, and it's just very, and also my father's home. So it's really great for people that just want a solution. They don't want a hassle, and it's really, really easy. So that's our classic model. That is probably our best-selling unit.
And that's the one that I like for people who just don't have the ability to get down there and install it.
Yeah.
You just have to, maintenance-wise, clean the tubs once a week.
Yes.
With some soap and water, just wash it out. And the filters are super easy to change, just to pop in there. And there is a Wi-Fi enabled unit, and our audience is usually pretty EMF sensitive, so they usually just stick with the classic one.
Yeah, and that's definitely our most popular unit. Is the classic unit. It works exactly the same as the Wi-Fi unit. So if you are EMF sensitive, it really is our standard unit. It's the one that most people buy, and it was our first, and it's our best. And then we have our under sink unit. our under sink unit is great if you're a homeowner and you got a great handyman. It's a pretty quick install. Like I had a plumber install mine. It took about 15 minutes. It really wasn't a big deal, but it's quite a luxury to have your water just right at your sink to cook with. But I had the classic unit. I have the same story. I had the classic unit, and I actually I was one of the testers of the under sink unit, and now I have the under the sink. And what's also great about the under sink is that there's a way to clean the water bin that you can do yourself. There's a couple of things that I really like about it. That you can, once a year, you can go in and we sell a solution. You just swish it around the big bottle that goes under the sink, and then you pour it out. You run a couple turns of water through it, and you're done. So once a year, you can maintain your own unit. So for a lot of RO under sink, you need to bring someone out to do it. It's not that complicated.
Annual cost and all that, but you don't. And mine has been installed. He likes doing handy projects, so he did install ours. So if you have a handy man or woman in your house, then that's an option too.
Yeah. And then another thing that's really great about our under sink is just the ease of pulling out. You just pull the little filter out, you twist it out, and then you twist one in. The filter change takes literally 2 minutes, and I can do it myself. I don't have to bring anybody to the house. I don't have to wait for my husband. I can really maintain my own unit at home. And what I do to track the dates for my filter life is I just have a little piece of masking tape on my device, and I just write the dates on it when I change the filters, and I keep track of it right there under the sink. So I really love having it. But I think one thing about RO water, when you really start using it and getting into it, just the effect it has on everything. Your coffee, your tea, your cooking, how you feel. Like, that you're drinking the most purified water. And so just the level of like, we're very athletic in my household. And so like the amount of water we consume here is crazy. And so just knowing that we're putting good things out, has no contaminants, it really gives us tremendous peace of mind.
Well, and I think a lot of people don't realize how much these chemicals trigger mast cells. We're really focused on food triggers, or mold as a trigger, stress as a trigger, but chemicals in the air and the water are also very significant triggers, and glyphosate is a huge GI tract disruptor, significant GI tract disruptor. It actually kills off bacteria in our gut, good bacteria. So I want all of us to filter this out, and however we end up doing it. And for those of you that don't have the budget just yet for this kind of unit, we have an option for you in the blog post that will buy you a little time. This is one of the things, if you had to pick one thing to save up for, I would save up for a really good quality water filter, and make sure you do your research and make sure that you're getting the kind of quality, whether you're going to go with Aquatru or you're going to go with a different one, make sure you get that quality. And that's what we really want for you, for your health. Before we get to our questions, is there anything that you think people need to know about that we haven't covered yet?
Yes. So we do have something called a firm on our site. So if it is a big investment for you, we have ways that we can break down the payment. So it can be as little as, let's say, like $30 a month. Don't quote me on that. But we do offer a firm, and you can space out your payment. So if this is really important to you and your health, please look into that, because I believe we have a 3-pay, a 3-pay, and a firm where you can really space out the payments. And a lot of people use that for this product. So I think that probably like 30 or 40% of the people that come to our site use that. So I'd look into that if this is really important for your health.
That's a great option.
Yeah. And then one more thing that I really like, this is so important to me, cooking. Like, people just are so programmed to go to your tap water and pour a bucket of pot of water for your pasta, and like it is not going to clean the water. When you boil your water, you still have so many contaminants in your water: lead, fluoride, PFAS. So it's actually like making it like toxic soup. And so it's something that people don't realize. And so I'm super passionate about that. Cooking with toxic soup is no bueno. And so I just really, like, if I could leave you with one thing today, it's to make sure that you're purifying the water that you cook with.
Yeah, anything that you put in your body, make sure any water you put in, if you're making herbal tea, if you're making coffee, make sure that it's purified, your cooking water. Well, let's hit some questions here. We had some really good questions come in, and it's good to see everybody on there. If you haven't said hi, just put your name in and say hi so we can see that you're on. That's the only way I can see who's on with us today. It's so good to have you guys here with us. So Andrew was asking about, does the EWG, I think you answered this, but if you could recap for Andrew, apply to well water areas as well?
No, no, it does not, because it's too random across the country. So the best way, like a quick way to see if you have a high level of totally dissolved solids in your water, is to buy a TDS test on Amazon. And you can see, like, if you're up over the 400 or 500 range, if you're over 100, purify your water. And so that's my first. And then there are other also testing kits for well water. I'm not really sure what those are, but there's ways to send your water in and get it.
Put that down. We've got a company we use, and Esty, if you can put that in for Andrew and others, it's the TAP score, or they also called Simple Water.
Yeah.
And they do well water testing. So this was helpful from Frances, because we have, she has the countertop unit, and she said the descaling solution is citric acid solution, which for most people doesn't bother them, but for some of our super sensitive people in this audience, they can be sensitive to it. Is there an option they could use without the citric acid for the descaling?
One would think that you might be able to put vinegar through it.
That's what I was thinking.
But I'd have to check with my engineering department and get back to you on that one. It's really important, if you're sensitive, when you change filters or you descale, to let it run another time. Like, do it at least, flush the system at least 3 times or 4. If you're super sensitive. The same thing, we like, you have filter options on our site. Like, and if you're getting some of our other filters, make sure you really flush your filters the first time, and don't like take shortcuts on these instructions. So if you're highly sensitive, we recommend flushing 2 times. I would recommend flushing 3 to 4 times, and that should take care of it for you.
Okay, so if somebody's super sensitive, flush 3 to 4 times. If they're not super sensitive, 2 times after the descaling. It's helpful. And then Helen will get back to us with her team if we've got an alternate to the citric acid.
Yes, I will.
Okay, Shannon's asking, do you know any option that would be portable for traveling or camping?
So we have a little guy that we just released. It's called the Aquatru carafe. It just came out. So it is the same RO filters. They're just smaller, and it's a little glass carafe. It's about the size of a coffee maker. So I literally just trained on it a few weeks ago. It's brand new, just launched over Labor Day. And
here, I'll share my screen and show them what I'm talking to. Looks like.
It's actually our lowest priced unit at $249, and it's got a glass pitcher, and it's pretty. I think you have a better price than that. I think your price is actually $249. You're going to our regular.
We've got I'll pull that up because we do have a discount for you guys. So make sure you go through our discount if you're going to buy, so you can save, because they put this together for our community here.
Yeah. So the little guy, the little carafe, is about the same size as a coffee maker. And it's and you could easily put that in your it could go into an RV. It could go with you in a little suitcase if this is super important to your health. And also, if you have any power while you're camping, like if you're off the grid, this isn't going to work for you. But if you're camping where you have some sort of like generator solar system that you can plug things in to generate power, then this will work there also. So this is a brand new, very petite little unit that's really great on the go.
That's a great tip. And depending on how long you're gone, Shan, if you're, backpacking, if you don't have the ability to have electricity to plug in, you could fill up your own bottles and take your own water.
Yep.
So that's what I usually try to do if it's a shorter trip. Because this just came out, I didn't know about it, but I want to take this when I travel, because I'm always going and purchasing water, but then I got to purchase all the plastic, and then there's plastics in that water I'm drinking. So that's a great option.
Good.
I just want to show them, while I've got this pulled up, the other units for them. So if you go to SJ, can you put our link in the chat for people? Oh, she did already. So you've got the link for the discount here, but just to show you, this is what the countertop unit looks like. And let me give you another view of it. So you can, you just press the button to dispense the water, and it does have the 2 tanks. You can see here, there's the back tank, and that's where you put your tap water, and then it runs through the filters and it fills up this tank, and you dispense it from there. So that's the sale price through our link that you won't get on their website. And then anything else on this before I show them the under the sink?
No.
Okay. So then let's go over, and of course this is accurate for today that we're recording the Facebook Live. If you're watching this a year from now, it might have changed a little bit, the pricing, but you'll still get a good pricing through our link here. And then here's the under the sink model. This is what we have. And you get this faucet here. So we have that installed. We took the sprayer out of the sink and installed it where the sprayer was. And then we swapped our kitchen faucet to a faucet that had a built-in sprayer. And that's how we handled it, so we didn't have to drill a hole. And they do have alkaline options on these as well. Some people love alkaline water. I've had a little trouble with it in our really sensitive people. If you're not super sensitive, then you might really like alkaline, but I would try it if you've not tried it before you get an alkaline unit.
Yeah, make sure that it's a very different taste to the water. So our Aquatru regular water is super clean, and it definitely changes the taste factor. So I would try alkaline water, store-bought first prior to making that commitment.
Okay, let's see what else questions we've got here. So Andrew is asking, so RO does have some wastewater. SJ posted an answer in from our blog post that you all got it down from the normal 80% wastewater to 30%. But anything else you want to add here?
We try to tell people to utilize, it just depends, right? Like, so if you're going to use the wastewater to water a plant or something, just be careful where it is and make sure it's not anywhere close to any type of garden or something that you might like if you grow your own vegetables. But, I like to just take my wastewater out and water some potted trees that I have outside, so I can kind of control that environment and not necessarily waste the water. So, wastewater is important to us. That's one of the reasons we developed this system to begin with. And so, but there is some waste when you clean it out. And when you use the Aquatru, you'll see it leaves about this much in the bottom, which you can use, like I said, to water house plants or take it outside and water some potted plants.
And I've also used that wastewater from the countertop version for sometimes just washing dishes and I've used it you can actually flush a toilet by pouring water into the toilet. And so I've used it that way. So there are ways to use that up so you keep it really environmentally friendly, but there is no way to have RO water without having some wastewater. I just think we want to be sensitive to how much it's producing.
Yeah.
And, ideally would be great if the technology didn't produce any, but I don't think that's possible. And I want to make sure I get the chemicals out. So, but distillation, I believe steam distillation, you're going to have wastewater as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, this is great from Kim. Excited to hear the system may cost less than I looked at. This may move it up on my list. So Kim, make sure you use our link, and I'll put it in a banner here for everybody as well, so you can see it here. I'll have to make it for us in just a second, but I'll post it up on the screen as well for us. Kristen's asking, what about heavy metal toxins to test for that in water? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I don't. So I'll look into it, and I will go in and circle back with an answer to how to test heavy metals. If you're on well water, if you're in a municipality, I would really check the EWG, because they do test for a lot of heavy metals.
Okay, and then I'm going to add this here to the bottom of our screen so people, there we go. So there's your link, so you can get your discounts there, and I'll pop that back up a couple other times. But if you want to take a screenshot of it or write it down here. Bonnie's asking, what was your NFS rating again? Are there different ratings in NFS?
So NSF rates ingredients. So it's different with water purification systems. So it's not like you're buying a lotion or something and you want to make sure it's clean, and you're looking up different ingredients on NSF's website. For water purification, NSF establishes standards, right? And so water purifiers are certified to NSF standards. So it's much different. Like I said, after this, I'll put up a link on different, there's different companies that are accredited to test to NSF water standards. And I have some pretty interesting information I could post up if you guys are curious about that.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great. We'd be happy to add it here. And then I wanted to hit this one from Alicia about the alkaline water. Definitely safe to drink alkaline water every day. And I did have an alkaline water unit for a while. But then I learned that it was not filtering out as much as I wanted. It was pricier, a lot pricier than the Aquatru. The thing to consider with alkaline is if you're super sensitive, alkaline water can increase the potency of your supplements and your medications. And so for some people that are already really sensitive, it changes how your body processes it slightly, so they may be a little more intense for you. So that's why I don't do it in our population. It's not, I love alkaline water for people. It's just sometimes a little tricky in our population. And if you have super low stomach acid, and we have so many people that haven't been able to get betaine HCl or some kind of stomach acid replacement on board, sometimes it'll bother their stomachs to do the alkaline water. But if you're not in a super sensitive population, then alkaline water is just fine for you. And if you've never had it, you can actually make some alkaline water just by putting some baking soda in water and drinking that and seeing how you feel.
And I'll add with Aquatru, if you use our alkaline filter, if that's something that you want to explore, it removes the exact same contaminants as the carbon filter you're swapping it out for. So it doesn't affect the filter life at all or what it filters out.
It just adds that extra step of modulating the pH for you.
That's right.
Okay, let's see what else. Oh, Bonnie has a request here. I'm going to add to her request. Please think about making shower head filters.
Okay. I know what's interesting is it would be really a situation to get a complete,
to do it as RO, yeah.
And also, you know, one thing that we're really passionate right now, just on the side, and I'm just thinking about this because I saw one of these yesterday, is when you think you're going up to an RO drinking fountain, they're not necessarily RO. Sometimes they're just one single filter. So I'd be really careful if you think you're drinking purified water at all these things that are popping up all over the place. I would be very hesitant. um, because I don't think that they're necessarily all filtered, because I'm in the business. I was just looking at one over the weekend and I was like, wow, that thing hasn't been changed in probably 2 years. And there's nothing RO about what's going on back there.
And we can, Bonnie, we do have, it is a gravity shower head filter. So it's not going to filter as much as reverse osmosis water. And I know Aquatru is really dedicated to reverse osmosis, so that may not be a possibility. That would be quite a system for a shower head. But we can put in for you if you're looking for a shower head filter, and we have a bath filter that at least get the chlorine out for you. Okay. Oh, Frances was just coming back and sharing that she did try the vinegar. She's using vinegar now. And she said, though, that her husband did not taste the citric acid. So it was just she tasted it, but her husband, it didn't.
Yeah, I just asked my product development team, and they said that you don't want to run vinegar through your current filters because it might affect the filtration. So if you have an old set of filters and you want to just clean the unit with vinegar, you can do it, just not with your real live filters because it will affect the filtration.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for that. All right. I think we might have a couple more things here. Let's see. Andrew's asking, oh, let's see, we wrap up with these. So we did talk, Shanna, about the differences between the gravity filters like Berkey and the RO towards the beginning. It's what you can filter out. And then also looking at their testing data, what Helen was sharing was to be sure to look at what point in the filter life that the testing was checked. So was the testing data from 50 gallons or 600 gallons? And that's another thing to compare. But this is the filter. I always like to be as supportive as we can of different products, but I also want you guys to have the transparent information. This is the filter many of my clients have been using, the one you mentioned, Shanna. And then I found lots of chemical toxins on the toxin panels. So it's a gravity filter versus a reverse osmosis. Anything you want to share here before we go to our last question?
Yeah, I mean, I think just to touch on that, when you go to the EWG database and you type in your zip code about the contaminants in your water, it will show what types of filters best filter out what's going on in your water. And in my experience, reverse osmosis, like 95% of the time will filter out more contaminants than what's going on in people's water at home. And we also we are certified to test to the length of our filter life, which is both 600 and 1200 gallons. So a lot of gravity filters only filter out certain contaminants to a much shorter life cycle. So just it's important that you know that, especially if you're super sensitive.
Yeah, I think that's a huge piece, and that's one of the things I really appreciate about what you all do is that you're testing through the full amount of time. So you know that those chemicals are going to be filtered out all the way until you do that next filter change. And maybe you could squeeze a little life out, but after that, you're not sure, so just do it at that scheduled filter change and you're going to have clean water. But it's not the best testing to go, well, we filter all this out through 50 gallons, but we're going to tell you can use that filter through 600 gallons and you're going to degrade in quality over time.
Yeah.
We've got two last short questions here I want to hit on. Oh, and Kimberly shared, I love my countertop unit. She's had the Aquatru, have had a couple years. So thanks for sharing that, Kimberly. Shanna asked, oh, we did Shanna. Sorry, I'm getting out of order here. Andrew, let's go to Andrew. If I want to store the water in fridge to keep it cold, I put it in glass. Andrew, I have glass pitchers that I get off of Amazon. And you can just store it in the fridge. It depends on how sensitive you are to things like you will eventually get mold or bacteria buildup anytime you let anything with water sit. I usually go with about 48 hours. If you're sensitive, maybe 72 if you're not as sensitive. What's your take on that, Helen?
Well, I mean, I like to just, I like to make water every day like you make coffee. If you have an over the sink, like an over the sink unit, like that's one of the first things I do every day. And I do it so I could make my coffee. And so I think when you start your day making clean water, it's a really great way to stay on top of it. And then I'll bottle water for the day. And usually that keeps it up. And on the outside of that, sure, you can go a day or two if you still have water left over. But I think the amount that you're getting out of the system will last about 1 to 2 days anyway. So I just have it a part of my life. And I prepare water for myself, my pets, my family, my cooking. And when you're really using it in all those capacities, I think storing it just doesn't really become an issue.
I think he just wants to keep it cold, is what he keep it cold.
You can also buy another extra. You can either keep it in glass, or you can take you could buy an extra carafe version, like the thing, and you can keep it in your fridge and just swap them out. Yeah.
That's a good tip. Okay, and I'll touch on this quickly from Alicia. We covered this earlier, but all RO does remove some minerals. Because if you're going to get tiny particle sizes like VOCs, you've got to remove the large particles as well. So SJ posted in, there is a trace mineral drop that I use. I like the taste of the softer water with the minerals. So I put that in there, and I just like remineralizing in the water. So you can do that. Helen shared earlier that we get most of our minerals through food anyway. The amount we get in our water is not very much, but you can use that product that she posted called Concentrates, and she put a link down where anybody can get 15% off with if you sign up under us with Fullscript. And then if you're super sensitive, I have people start with 1 drop of that in a half a gallon, stir it, and you can gradually build yourself up over time. This has been wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us, and we really appreciate your time and all of your information is shared. And then when you're able to share with us on the last couple pieces, then we'll drop them in the chat for everybody. Any last words?
No, I just want to thank everybody, and everybody can be their own water warrior. And so just make sure, like, if I leave you with one thing, it's just please do not cook with water that hasn't been purified.
Wonderful. And we'll be back next week, everybody, same time, 2 p.m. Eastern. It'll be good to see you all. In the meantime, take really good care of yourselves, be gentle with yourselves, and no matter what, keep going and you'll eventually get there. See you next week.
Bye. Thank you so much.